How did this go so horribly wrong? I'm not even a fan of either HVDES or CRaymak, but I did not expect this song to be this bad. The first drop sounds awful. It sounds like something Bear Grylls and Riot 10 would come up with. And this is where the vocals could save the song, but nope. The vocals aren't good either. HVDES sounds super nasally in the worst way possible, and Aftermath screamo vocals don't compliment HVDES at all. Combine this with a mediocre melodic dubstep drop that fits with nothing, and the fact that it's more than 5 minutes of this, and you have one of the worst songs on Monstercat I've heard all year. This is not good at all. Next. I'm just gonna say it, the title of this track reminds me of the factory scene from Freddy Got Fingered, but honestly, that's the least of the song's problems. The ding dong sample is super cringe inducing, the electro house vibe it's trying to go for in the first to third drops don't work, since the starting machine-like synths sound rigid as it can get. The rest of the song outside of those drops are non-existent. Oh yeah, in the middle drop is one of Crank Death's most lazy bro step drops I've heard from him in a while. His collaboration with Riot 10 on Own the Night was trying harder than that drop. And while it's not the worst track I've heard from him on the label, that's still who I am. It's still bad enough to put a sour taste in my mouth. So skip this too. Man, I wish I liked this song more than I do. I get what CloudNone and Direct were trying to go for, but it just doesn't work at all. And really, the drops are what killed this song for me and sucked me out of the experience. The darker, fizzier synth tones don't match well with the rest of the song, with the poppier garage percussion and synths. Not to mention, they don't sound very good to begin with. And once we get to the second drop, is this mess of synth sounds trying to compete with each other. It makes me hard for me to get into this. In other words, yeah, this isn't good either. Let's just move on. Okay, context here. The Pegboard Nerds released a remix competition way back in March. And whoever won that competition got to collaborate with the Pegboard Nerds on a track. That competition winner was Redless, aka Tony Marr. So surely, Redless will add to the Pegboard Nerds track to make it fresh and new from a duo that's on the verge of burnout. Or he'll just get sucked into the burnout, and the track will sound like another generic bro step song from the Pegboard Nerds I've heard over 1,000 times. Guess which one ended up happening? At least the bridge production sounds anthemic and it creates a great build-up to the song, but I'm sorry, that drop is just a letdown. The snare is almost non-existent, the synth growls sound flat and boring and do nothing for me, the leads are shoved so close to the front of the mix and are so loud that I'm reminded of Omega by Pixel Terror, and the pauses in the drops are jarring and out of place. The one redeeming factor to the drops is that wiry lead, but even then, it reminds me of Bleed Black by Shaka One, a song I'd much rather be listening to. So, good concept, not so good execution.
So fake, minds are glaze, see how we all just phase into droids.
I mean, it's better than Nocturnal. I at least like the build up to the drops. The song has some good sound design to it that I can at least respect. And the first drop is some decent neurofunk. Too bad that said drop runs for too long, so it becomes stale. And then we get to the side chord drop that comes out of nowhere and sounds underwhelming as it can get. Not to mention, Max MC pretty much contributes nothing to the song besides one average verse. Maybe it's just me, but so far, NX's songs on Monstercat are not impressing me. I really hope that if they are going to stick around, they make better songs than this. great. We're getting this messy style from Direct with the stuttering vocal chops I hated and I know. Wonderful. Again, like with Nectar, it's a problem with the drops. Instead of an odd synth choice, however, like with Nectar, is an odd vocal chop. They're extremely irritating here and ruins what could have been a good garage tune with a pulsating synth and gentle percussion taps. At least the second drop is better structured, and frankly, that drop is the reason why this isn't lower. And it's unfortunate because I was really looking forward to this EP and by extension, this single, but unfortunately, it didn't deliver. At least for me. And sticking to the topic of disappointments, we have this. A feature rave inspired track that has awkward stuttering synths, which has become a theme for this month, an underwhelming snare, a drop that reminds me of Lift Off by W&W, that is not a good thing, and while emo sounds pretty good here, Stonebank manages to butcher a voice and vocoder during the second half of the drop. Lovely. At least the verse production is pretty good. Otherwise, this would be lower. In other words, this is mediocre. At best.
My heart is getting heavy from hoping, and it's got a lot of battle scars. I kinda wish somebody had told me that this was gonna be so hard.
So because Arm & Hammer's Fallen Apart has 2 million views on Spotify, honestly I'm not complaining, I still like the song, it would only make sense that there would be an acoustic version. And, well, it's an acoustic, alright. Run has some pretty good vocals, and there are a few good vocal harmonies toward the bridge that sound good, and the guitar sounds decent. It's not my thing, but if you like listening to acoustics, this one's pretty good. I'd check it out. I was skeptical going into this, given how Vice Tone have always been hit or miss, and the majority of their legacy album from last year sounded unfinished. And the one expression I have for this is just meh. Shy Martin, who's the uncredited vocalist of the song, sounds fine enough, although I could use less of the vocoder and pitch shifter on her vocals. The production is decent enough too on the verses with the acoustic guitar, the marambas, before we get to a pretty decent chorus, which adds in the gentle snaps. And while the drop is pretty underwhelming for their standards, I can still dance to it, and it has a good enough lead to make the drop tolerable. Don't be surprised if this becomes a hit. It's Vice Tone after all. I say this because I know there might be some rankers who will hate this track, but for me, this is fine enough. I'll take it.
It's too hard to let go. It's too hard to let go.
This is another song I just found to be okay. Hello World is an artist whose music I haven't really enjoyed too much on Slander's label Heaven Sent, but with this, I get the vibe the song's trying to go for, but it just doesn't stick the landing very well. Hello World's vocals are passable, they just exist. It's not like Conroe or Rogue, we'll talk about him later, where the vocals have some personality behind him. These just feel generic. The song's production before the drop is good, with the minimalistic synths, and I like the sound design here, but while I could get behind the drop and enjoy it, it's still pretty rigid with the pauses and overblown pixelated synths. It creates this rough feeling to the song where I feel like there's a lot to be desired here. Frankly, I don't know why it's on Rocket League at the moment. It's not bad per se, it's okay again. It might grow on me in the future, but there are problems that are holding this back. That's all.
All the shit I've been through, but still I beg for you.
And now we have my second least favorite track off of Papa Khan's last EP, behind Never Cared, even though I consider the song to be pretty decent. The intro reminds me a lot of Shadow by Boss Fight in a really good way. Vocals are decent, and although the drop leaves a lot to be desired, it does sound good with the blocky leads and trap beat. Yeah, not much to say here. If it interests you, give it a listen. So let me get this straight, Koven. You first released an utterly forgettable and exhausting single, Take It Away, that made the bottom of my last ranking, which confirmed in my mind at the time that Koven is going through the burnout phase, just like with the pegboard nerds. And then you turn around and release this? I just have one question. Why couldn't you have just released this first? Because this is so much better. Katie's vocals sound great as always, but the highlight comes in the production. The intro sounds really good with the haunted pianos and brass, the orchestral elements sound great, and the backing vocals are phenomenal. It reminds me of Voices, a song from Koven I frequently return to. The one redeeming factor of Takeaway, which was the violins, they're back here and they also sound good too. My one complaint is that I wish the drop and percussion had more of a punch and drive to it, but I will gladly take this. I want to hear more of this from Koven's EP and less of Take It Away. Okay, now we get to the leading single from the Godlands EP, and it's pretty good. I like a lot of the vocal samples, they're much better than in Godspeed, and the drops are bass-driven trap, which I've always been a big fan of, and all 3 drops go off. The one complaint I have is that the song seems to not have a clear structure with the drops. They all sound similar and yet feature different elements here and there. Maybe it could be like Tell Me with Tasoki and have a completely different sounding drop in there. That would help. Other than that, yeah, I enjoyed this. If you're into this bass heavy trap style, check this out. It's pretty much Remedy Part 2, however, I actually enjoy this one a bit more. Mostly because I enjoy the vocal chops more on this one, and the vocals are better this time as well. That was really the only problem I had with Remedy, and it's pretty much fixed here. Not much else to say with this one. If you're into electro house, give it a listen. Wait, am I reading this right? Are you sure it's by Saxquatch? Isn't the guy One Trick Pony only known for playing the saxophone over house production? And frankly, not very good house production at that. The funny thing is, I think Saxquatch gets this. Why else is this song in Madness, aka the Mario cartoon, co-produced by Tokyo Machine? But yeah, here we are. And this is easily my favorite tune from him. The saxophone sounds good as always from him, but unlike most of his singles, the production is able to back up most of the song without said saxophone, between the piano and the pre-chorus and twinkles of synth to the drop, which adds in the bouncier sense with some actually good house production. Honestly, it reminds me of Offski Style, an artist whose music made my best song to the 2021 list. So yeah, this is really good. Can't believe I'm saying this about Saxquatch of all people, but there you go. While Scumbag is good, I actually enjoy this one a bit more. I like how Godlands tried to go for something different, and wow, it pays off here. The first drop with metallic lead and vocals sound really good, and it reminds me a lot of CloudNone and Direct collaborations that, you know, weren't completely disappointing this month. And the second drop was a nice switch up to a break style, which fits well with the rest of the song. I wasn't a big fan of Godlands, but this EP is pretty good, and this is one of my favorites. And thankfully, since it's on Rocket League, I hope it gets the recognition it deserves. Good stuff. I mean, it was only a matter of time before Rogue came back, and this, well, it's a pretty good synth pop tune, with the electric guitars backing up the lush synths on the verses, Rogue's great vocals as always, and a drop that has a really infectious lead to it. It's pretty nostalgic too. It reminds me a lot of Desert Star's best songs like Foreign Land or Carissa. I'm completely on board with this. It's not as good as Empires. I don't think anything from Rogue is going to top that last drop of that song, but it's still great, and I'm looking forward to what he has next. So check this out. While it isn't as good as Warp, I still think it's a pretty good song from Boss Fight. Unlike Crank That, Boss Fight actually utilizes the house dubstep style well here. The bass house drop hits hard on the song, and I like a lot of the vocal samples used. But the big reason I like this, let's be honest, is that second drop, where Boss Fight leads into this dubstep style, and it goes off with the growling synths and orchestral influences. Man, between this and Warp, I'm looking forward to this Boss Fight EP in July. Let's hope it's just as good as this, because this is great. It makes complete sense that this was the next single off of Papa Khan's Lost EP, and it's also one of my favorites from that album. The ghostly fadings of vocals and laser-like synths in the chorus, to the vocals, which are really good at capturing that sadness of being far away from someone, and the drops that are a catchy blend of liquid-like synths and the knock of the snare, providing a really solid groove to this song. It's not as good as Get To You, but it's definitely worth a listen. Check it out.
Into oblivion.
Yeah, shocker, I know. A melodic dubstep song from Rival and Fairlane makes my number one. Who could have guessed? Sarcasm aside, this song is great. Philip Strang gives a pretty good vocal performance. The production with the pianos and acoustic drums on the verses sound great, and the drops are a well-constructed and hard-hitting blend of both Rival and Fairlane styles, complete with a climactic off-drop outro, and you have one of my favorite tunes so far this year. I really hope Rival and Fairlane stick around on Monstercat, cause this is awesome. So yeah, check this out. And that was our month. Honestly, a bit underwhelming. Let's hope next month is better. Speaking of which, next month you can expect to see Athena and Smile make a return. Boss Fight's EP releases with 3 new singles. Infected Mushroom comes back with their single, A Cookie in Space. Castor and Yetup return with their respective singles. And we might get a Rogue and Back at Peter song. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around soon.